Well, good morning, guys. It's a foggy one. Still inside the barn right now. But we're gonna get the day started.
Burns bright in me till the day I die.
So up in those trees somewhere, all last night you could hear a bald eagle that's nesting over there. And out in that tree line yesterday afternoon before it got dark, you could hear an elk bugling. And the lady at the visitor center, Liz, said that there is a bull elk that beds in this area. Sometimes it'll just literally hang out next to her at the visitor center. Haven't heard it this morning, or the eagle for that matter. Maybe they're getting a later morning than us. And there is part of the famous Lost Coast Trail. At least I could say I stood on it, right? If you're a backpacker, you might have heard of this trail before, but you do need a permit to do it, and the permits are on a lottery system. So I'm just reviewing the ChatGPT directions here. Not directions, but itinerary. And for yesterday, let's see, I read some of it, but it said basically stay along, use all road, and get to Needle Rock. We're still at Needle Rock. And after that, it says keep an eye out for camping areas along the road for potential sites to spend the night. If needed, stop at Shelter Cove to refuel. I don't believe there's a gas station at Shelter Cove. And actually, I asked Liz down at the visitor center, yeah, there's no gas station at Shelter Cove. And fill up your water supply. Find dispersed camping near Shelter Cove or near the coast to camp. There's no dispersed camping around Shelter Cove. There's is pretty much all private land here. There's nowhere to do dispersed camping. There is Kings Range Wilderness, but as you can see, nothing even gets close to the coast as far as like roads that you can drive down. So not really a possibility either. So you're either gonna have to do these camp spots tucked in the hills up here, or there's another one I've marked up here. So that's part of why we spent the night here at the Needle Rock Visitor Center in the barn. I mean, the other part is obviously because the barn's pretty cool, and that's not something I do every day. So that's as far as we got with the day 2 itinerary. If I keep reading it, day 3 instructions, it says to start your day by exploring the Black Sands Beach and the surrounding shoreline. So that is Black Sands Beach at Shelter Cove. I don't know if I call it black. It's more of like a gray. I just noticed these tiles on the ground. And look at the one I found there. One of the coolest spots I've been to.
We gotta go close camera.
What's there? Well, all I learned from walking these bricks that have all these locations of BLM areas on it is that I got a lot of places I still gotta go. This is cool, look at that happy little lizard. And tarantula, I'm guessing? And a fox, turtle, little snake, cactus. Cool. Yeah, that looks like quite the walk down there. That is like a big drop. I thought we were gonna pull like right next to the beach, but yeah, there's a pretty sizable cliff here. Drive further along Shelter Cove Road
towards Mattole Road.
Alright, so we went back up the hill at Shelter Cove Road, and then we turned left on Kings Range Road. And this is just very well maintained gravel. But it feels like we're back up in the mountains again, with dense trees and sunshine peeking through that. We're going to continue along here. We're about 38 miles or so from Mattole, but we are going to stop in a little town before we cut west to the beach. A little town called Petrolia, where you can refuel. From what I understand, there's a general store with like a gas pump or two, and we'll see how I'm doing on fuel when I get there. So I thought these were trash cans, but apparently they're rash cans. Don't touch those. Still on Kings Range Road. We're gonna continue along. I don't think there's too much more gravel. Maybe like another 7-8 miles or so, and then the rest of the way up to Petrolia should be pretty much paved. So it looks like most of the dirt is south of Shelter Cove, mostly that Usall Road area. But that was a nice trail. I don't mind some pavement, just to make up some time. So we are at a little campground that's on this road. I did see this on the map. I did mark it just in case we needed to use it. But Tolkan, I think this is like mountain bike trails, like John was saying, but I think further ahead is the Tolkan campground. All right, we're gonna chug along and check in with you in a bit. And it looks like Maya's driving the rest of the way, so I'm just gonna jump in the passenger side.
Stock up on supplies in Petrolia, a small town with limited amenities. And boy, are their amenities limited. It's one little general store with, I believe it was 2 mechanical fuel pumps. But they had gas. I didn't actually go in the general store, but I'm sure you can get pretty basic supplies there.
There's a very distinct smell of let's just call it a green colored plant in the air.
Continue along Mattole Road until you reach the iconic Punta Gorda Lighthouse. So Punta Gorda Lighthouse was under maintenance when we were there. There was a huge maintenance crew that was staying on Mattole Beach Campground here. Looked for dispersed camping options along Mattole Road closer to the beach. So if we're actually looking at Mattole Road, which is this yellow line here, that is all private land. And there is nowhere to do dispersed camping. So we also ended up like the construction crew here at the Mattole Beach Campground. Set up camp and enjoy a peaceful evening in this beautiful coastal area.
Holy cow, it is windy here. And check these out. So these right here, I looked up the history, and sometime in the early 1800s, there were these sea creatures called murlocs, and they would come out from the ocean and attack humans. And these are pikes that they would stick murloc heads on as a warning to not enter the land of mankind. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just a nerd, and I used to play World of Warcraft. You know Murlocs, if you played that, right?
All right, Kenny, drink your elixir of the mongoose. I'm now going to use Mocking Blow.
Yeah, it is super windy here. Look, it's screwing up Gandalf's beard dew. It's so windy. Go. So we're walking south along the beach because there's like some weird driftwood structure over here. I have no idea what it is. I don't know if it's like hikers along the Lost Coast got real bored one day, or if that actually used to be something. But yeah, from what John was telling me, because he actually researches the Lost Coast Trail for backpacking, and this is the most typical northern starting point for the trail, which follows along the coast. And there are 2 areas that are impassable during high tide. And I'm not talking like a couple 100-yard stretch. I'm talking more like more than a mile stretch of coastline where you just cannot get by when it's high tide. And there are many, many stories of people doing this hike, not paying attention to that, and getting swept out to sea. It's pretty crazy. But one of those impassable points, I believe the most northern one, is just around that bend there. There's a lighthouse called, if I remember right, Punta Gorda Lighthouse. And just south of that is the first impassable zone. We did see 4 guys head out to backpack with all their gear. We actually saw them earlier at Black Sands Beach for a moment in the parking lot, and then again here. And if you guys ever decide to come out and use Mattole Beach Campground, keep in mind that it's state run, and there is a fee of $8 per campsite for up to 2 vehicles. Luckily I brought some cash, but not the right amount. And those 4 guys that headed out for their backpacking trip had some change for us. So thank you to them. All right, guys, we're probably not going to go too much further. Maya, come on, let's go. Good girl. So my little dog is confused on how things work, and my big dog seems to be indifferent that my little dog is humping her head. Yeah, dogs. Didn't really show you the campsite yesterday because, I mean, honestly, there's not that much to see. Just your typical paid campground with some vault toilets. But yeah, this is our spot. It was a decent place to, you know, get a good night's sleep. And you still hear the ocean waves crashing from this spot, so that's pretty nice. We got up relatively early, 6 o'clock, and we're just gonna make some breakfast real quick and get out of here because there's a little bit more to see before we actually head home this morning. So I'll check in with you guys after we get some grub and when we're on the way. Ocean's right over that little hill of sand there.
Wake up early and take a scenic walk along the beach, exploring the tide pools and observing the unique coastal wildlife. I don't remember seeing any tide pools in this area. I guess you'd have to walk a little further than we did. And there wasn't too much coastal wildlife, like maybe some seagulls here and there. Drive back along the toll road and head towards Humboldt Redwoods State Park. Ferndale is a small town about half an hour's drive south of Eureka. The town was founded in 1852, and some of the buildings are still around from the late 1800s. Ferndale is a bit of a Victorian architecture museum, featuring one of the largest collections of Victorian buildings in California. Stop at the visitor center to gather information about the park and refill your water supplies. We never stopped at the visitor center. And explore the park's scenic drives and hiking trails. Make sure to stop at the famous Avenue of the Giants, which we did do, and that starts right here at the junction of Highway 101 and goes along this road for quite a while.
So we're pulled over on the Avenue of Giants, and we actually drove the length of this already and then made a U-turn and came back around because we found a little pull-off, and there is a giant fallen redwood over there. I mean, I've seen bigger, you know, there's some famous ones like in Sequoia National Park. What's it called? The Fallen Monarch is one of them. But this is pretty big, and this is free. That's a pretty big one already. That's gotta be like 10 feet tall or more, and this one's even bigger. I don't know if you can get the perspective on it. John's gonna walk down there. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty tall. That's gotta be a good like 15, 16 feet or so. Like you can't walk in, right? Whoa. Yeah, there's probably all kinds of like things I don't like in there, like giant spiders that are gonna eat you. But that is pretty cool. Like, check out how long this thing is. Like, it just keeps going and going. And, you know, anytime there's something like this, you know, people just have to carve their name in it. As if it's petroglyphs or something. Like somebody 10,000 years from now is actually going to give a shit. Oh, speaking of shit, I don't have bags on me, dog. So I'm going to walk back and get some doggy duty bags. I've definitely seen bigger redwoods, but these are pretty big. Then again, it's not in some national park, so you can come here and kind of enjoy the big trees for free. It's kind of loud with the road noise, but still a nice spot. All right, got some bags on my way back. I didn't even notice this sign earlier. This is the Hank and Florence Sadler Grove. And I will mark this in Gaia GPS. And I think what I'm gonna do for you guys, if you're interested in doing this little trip, is to put all the routes and everything, all the locations and all that, up on like a Google Drive or something like that, and then give you guys the link to it so that you can download it and use it in Gaia or whatever mapping app you guys use, and do this trip yourself. Like, it's a pretty good one for somebody like new to this. You're not so remote that you don't feel like you can get to civilization. It's a pretty easy drive overall. Even the dirt roads are pretty well maintained. Like I said, any all-wheel drive car or even like a two-wheel drive higher clearance vehicle can do it. That first section on the first day where we went from Highway 1 and then connected into Usal Beach. Yeah, Usal Road I probably wouldn't take, like, you know, like a lower clearance sedan or anything like that. But just about anything else can do it. Just don't go, if you don't have a super capable vehicle, just don't go after like a big rain, and I think you'll be okay. But yeah, we're gonna hang out here for a little bit, maybe eat like a quick bite before we head on back home. No more stops planned between here and home, so this is gonna be our last stop for this trip. All right, I'm gonna pick up Gandalf's poop, and I don't think you wanna see that on a video. It's not very interesting. Yes, dog owners, please be responsible and pick up after your dogs, especially in the city by my house. That'd be nice.
If needed, find a gas station in the town of Myers Flat to refuel your vehicle. End your adventure by late afternoon and start your journey back home or to your next destination. We ended up refueling back here in Fortuna, so we didn't need to stop again at Myers Flats. And sometime around the mid-afternoon, we started heading home. But there was a pretty interesting stop along the way, and I just had to do it.
Hey, what's up, guys? We're still driving Highway 1, but I saw this sign for the Legend of Bigfoot, and it looks like this crazy little store, so we're gonna go check it out. I'm not gonna film in there because I don't know if the owners are cool with that, so let's go see what we can find, though. Back from the gift shop, and you know, I got the patches on the headliner like every other person who does overlanding stuff, and I found a California Coast patch. Couldn't find a Lost Coast one, but this will do. That'll suffice. And I got me a Bigfoot saw me, but nobody believes him sticker. It's a pretty cool shop. I mean, kind of like tucked in the middle of nowhere on Highway 101. Very touristy kind of stuff, obviously. They got a lot of like wood carvings of obviously Sasquatch and then bears and things like that. But nice people, cool store, fun to stop. Not something you do every day. All right, guys, so let's recap the trip, kind of look at how well ChatGPT did planning this little overland adventure to the Lost Coast area. I've got my laptop in front of me. I'm just going to read a couple notes that ChatGPT put at the bottom of the itinerary. So it says, this itinerary assumes you will be traveling in a well-equipped off-road vehicle with appropriate camping gear. Check. Water storage. Check. And fuel capacity. Check. You know, usually some of you probably know I have like fuel anxiety because my 400 gets like 10 miles a gallon off-road, 14 miles a gallon on the highway, something like that because of all the weight. This time I calculated all the distances out very, very well and didn't have any issues with gas. So good there on me for double checking that. Always respect the rules and regulations of the area and practice leave no trace principles while camping in dispersed sites.
We always do that when we go camping with leave no trace principles, but some other people before us at Use All Road, I guess because it was a holiday weekend, didn't do a great job. And we did what we could, but I just didn't have enough garbage bags on us to really like try to clean up everything, like, nor do I think I could have. There was so much of it. So pick up after yourselves, guys. Pack out what you pack in. Make sure to check weather and road conditions before embarking on the journey, as some areas may require a high clearance four-wheel drive vehicle. So there are some gates along Use All Road, and they will close that due to like adverse weather, like landslides, things like that. So definitely check before you go out into an area, especially if you're driving from, you know, further away, to make sure you're not going to encounter any roadblocks or things like that. That's a good practice. And lastly, it is recommended to have a detailed map or GPS device to navigate the remote areas of the Lost Coast. That is a great idea on the Lost Coast, because we pretty much never had cell signal anywhere except in a couple of the smaller towns. And by the coast though, like, I can't even say the cell signal was spotty because it was pretty much non-existent. So offline navigation, probably a really, really good idea, not just for the Lost Coast, but just in general when you're going to be adventuring like into off-grid areas. Don't rely on cell signal. Have a good offline GPS device or mapping available on your cell phone, like GPS is what I use for planning routes and for route navigation when I'm out in remote areas. Okay, so let me put the laptop down. So how did ChatGPT do overall planning this little overland adventure? Well, it actually did better than I thought it was going to initially. It did a pretty good job at like telling you the points of interest to see and give you a good itinerary on things to do. But what it failed at was details. Terrible at details. It had me looking for dispersed camping sites in like areas that only had private land, and you know, that's not really gonna go well. Don't do that. And I wouldn't rely on it to plan your entire adventure. It could be like a supplemental tool to use. Maybe it'll give you some ideas on points of interest or things to do that you would have missed on your own, like planning it out yourself, or just didn't pop up during your research of an area. So you can use it as that little extra tool. Just don't rely on it to plan your whole adventure. Pretty obvious, right? But you know, I had to go test it out. But if you're confused on what to do for planning an overland adventure, it's your first time or whatever, check out this video up here, and that'll give you some ideas on how to get started. Thank you guys so much for coming along on this little trip. Our next one is going to be out in the Eastern Sierras, chasing some fall colors. So keep an eye out for that one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you'll join us for the next one. As always, destinations don't matter, the journey matters. This is Roger, over and